Community television. You're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm the official team mascot for UMBC, also known as Jaime Hixson. And joining us on the phone once again,
scouting chicks at every college campus as much as I can. The hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV. Yours truly, Hector Bosa.
oh,
The always hated, always loved, and in the world.
you mean always hated and never loved?
Even at CTV.
Anyway, we're happy that you could join us. Hector, we're happy that you could join us over the phone. We're also happy that you guys watching on television can join us. As always, you can check out some past shows of ours on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can also contact us on Instagram and Snapchat. And if, in case there's a particular story that you want us to tell that's going on here on the island, don't forget to contact us through those avenues. We would love to hear from you.
As a matter of fact, what's going on in the island right now?
Well, here on Staten Island, unfortunately, Wagner College's season came to an end last week in the first round of the NIT. They wound up getting their heads handed to them by Baylor. 21-point deficit was
now, was that a given?
Pretty much a given. I mean, Baylor was a pretty solid team this year with a little bit more height and a little bit more athletic ability. So it was natural that the Bears were going to be able to beat the Seahawks the way they did. By the way, Kenny Graham's on the other side of the glass right now, and he's double dipping because he's taking care of this show, and he's taking care of John Contaduca's show, which is the Staten Island Soccer Report right next door.
He's taking care of business.
Yes, he is. Always taking care of business, especially when it comes to soccer.
Yes. I'm talking about Kenny.
Yep. Kenny's always taking care of business. That goes without saying. Now, if only we can get him away from the Pepsi.
That'll be never. That's his lifelong blood. His lineage goes back that far.
Yeah. So we're basically hours away until the beginning of spring.
And there's a winter effect coming this Wednesday.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mother Nature has not finished with us yet. She seems to want to torment us a little bit with more snow for some strange reason. And April's right around the corner, too.
It snows in April.
Yeah, it snows in April as well. I remember a couple of blizzards that wound up hitting the city in April in years past.
I mean, hell, I remember when it closed some baseball games.
Mm-hmm. I remember when the Yankees had opening day at the stadium against Texas, and Andy Pettitte pitched at least 7 or 8 innings in the snow.
Oof.
That was 22 years ago.
That is some, but there's no global warming. There's no such thing.
Well, I would like to think that we're going to be getting a little bit more respectable weather by the time April begins. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Whatever happens, happens. We got to live through this.
Yeah, it's in God's hands, man.
Yeah. But let me ask you, what's going on? Because the hot topic right now is, besides March Madness, is how the Jets and Giants are going to do.
The Jets and the Giants have been practically on the phones or conducting meetings with a whole bunch of different players and their agents. And just earlier in the day, the Giants wound up closing deals with 2 more players. I'm telling you, they're going to do they're making a whole facelift of this roster right now. Just to give you an idea of who the Giants have decided to bring in, the Giants brought in a defensive lineman named Josh Morrow, And they also brought in a former receiver who used to play in Cleveland, which
Martin.
is Cody Latimer.
Yeah, they also got a guy named Martin. Martin Freeman, something like that. He played with Morrow.
Mm-hmm.
But
as a matter of fact, Cody Latimer wound up posting his contract signing on Twitter with his wife and son. So this is a big thing that the Giants are doing. And also, the Giants wound up bringing in some help in the secondary. They brought in a cornerback named B.W. Webb. I think that's the guy who you were thinking of that played for the Browns recently. So now that makes two guys named Webb that are on the roster. There's B.W. Webb, who played in the secondary with the Browns last year. And then there's last year's draft pick from Cal, Davis Webb, who's a quarterback.
He was a third stringer.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me ask you, with all these improvements that the Giants have made, how young are these guys?
Well, Josh Morrow, I'm going to see if I can bring in a bio on this kid. He's started 20 games in 2 years with the Cardinals, and last year he had a pretty solid season in a backup role. He had 22 tackles and a sack. As far as what his age is, let me see if I can try and find a little bit more on this young man.
Because the Giants are trying to get younger? Are they trying to win now?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they looking for the future?
The way they're bringing in all these newcomers, they want to try and make a run. If not at a championship, at least at a playoff spot, maybe even challenge for the Eastern Division title. And also, we mentioned that Morrow played with Arizona last year. The Giants brought in more than one Arizona Cardinal to their roster right now because the guy who's their new defensive coordinator, James Betcher, he was an assistant on the Cardinals last year. So I think it's safe to say that a lot of these guys had quite a bit of respect for James Betcher and the defensive schemes that he ran in Arizona. Keep in mind, Arizona had a really top-of-the-line defense for about 2 or 3 years. So, needless to say, I think there's a chance that Betcher is going to be running the same type of schemes that he had with the Cardinals on the Giants this coming season.
So you see the Giants at 2-3 or 4th place?
In the division or in the conference?
In the conference. Or in the division, I should say.
Probably.
On paper.
On paper right now?
Right.
I mean, they've gotten better defensively, but there's still some holes that they need to plug in on the offensive line, which they've done. I think they've filled 3/5 of those holes on the line. Now let's see what they could do with the other couple of another couple of positions on that line. For the record, Cody Latimer is 25 years old. B.W. Webb, he's played 49 games. So you figure about 4 years in the NFL, which would make him about 25 as well.
So they're getting young but have experience behind them.
Mm-hmm. And that's not such a bad idea when it comes to trying to put together a team that's going to contend next year.
That's true.
And give the Giants credit, though. At least they've kept themselves really busy. They're not bringing in any superstar names, but they're still bringing in guys that made an impact somehow. Now they're going to try and make an impact full-time next year.
Is OJB still on the team?
You mean Odell Beckham? Oh, yeah, he's still a Giant.
You know, he was accused of something, and it was the wrong person.
Yeah, supposedly he got caught on video with some girl, and while Beckham was holding a cigar, the girl was snorting cocaine.
Yeah, but according to the video, it wasn't him. It was somebody that looked like him.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I saw it on BS Stream. The one that you were looking at?
Mm-hmm.
The title, it said something of that nature, and I'm going, boy, they confused you?
Wow.
How could somebody look exactly like you, but, you know.
I hope that's all it is right now. Oh, and just to give you an idea, supposedly Odell Beckham wound up taking a little vacation in Europe with the soccer star Ronaldinho.
Wow.
And that might have been what caused this little mix-up.
Now, I wanted to ask you, have the Giants have made any blunders?
Recently or in years past?
No, this year. Should they have signed people that they didn't sign?
I mean, it would have been nice for them to go after a big-name player. For example, Tyrann Mathieu got released by the Cardinals, and the Giants, not once did they decide to bring him in at least for an interview to see if he was interested or not.
Maybe it cost too much.
Could be, because Tyrann Mathieu made a lot of money with the Cardinals.
Because remember, it's about budget and salary caps. Now, the Jets are very interesting.
The Jets are interesting, too, because they brought in Terrell Pryor for an interview, and they're looking to make him a part of the receiving corps.
Now, who do you think has made this more significant push, the Giants or the Jets?
Oh, without a doubt, it's the Giants. They've been signing guys left and right, and they're already zeroing in on who they want to be their first or their second overall draft pick. I still say that hopefully Saquon Barkley is going to be available at number 2, although from what I understand, he could be picked by the Browns first overall. And if that's true, maybe the Giants should look at a quarterback for down the road.
Now, Saquon Barkley, what is he?
He's a running back. He's an outstanding running back who can really break a lot of – he's a tackle breaker. He also catches passes out of the backfield. He makes a lot of things happen coming out of the backfield.
And do you think that the Giants should pick a quarterback?
If Saquon Barkley is not available, then the Giants should definitely pick up a quarterback.
Then you're expecting Eli Manning to retire in 3 years at least.
That's if he has that much left in his career. Keep in mind, he's 37 now, and he also has a couple of years left on his deal that are worth a lot of money. He's got a good $45 million left on his deal. But
he had a $5 million signing bonus.
And knowing how competitive Eli is, he's not going to want to take this lying down. He might want to extend his career maybe a little bit longer. Not only that, but he saw what happened with his brother, with his brother Peyton, being forced out of the Colts and having to end his career as a Denver Bronco. Eli loves being a Giant. He will only be a Giant. If it comes to a point where he may be forced out, then does he choose to retire or does he finish his career with another team? Who knows?
Well, it all depends because you've known many football players and other players in the profession. Most players, if they want to continue to play in the league, they'll go to other teams. Who was the last person that retired at an old age?
At a really old age?
on the same team.
The only person I can think of is Darryl Green, and he had 19 years with the Redskins.
Look at that.
And I think he retired at age 42.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you keep your body in fit,
Yeah.
age is not a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jets, did they give up too much for that third-round draft choice?
I hate to say this, but I think they might have. I think they might have really thrown in everything, including the kitchen sink, just to get a high pick. Keep in mind, the Jets have traded up, I think, 4 or 5 times in all throughout their history. Every time they trade up to get a high draft pick, they wound up with either Johnny Lamb Jones.
Who was a good player?
He lasted, what was it, 4 years? Barely caught 100 passes, and then was out of the league after 5 years. Then there was Dwayne Robertson, who lasted 6 years. And then, does anyone remember Mark Sanchez? Who lasted, 6 years, and after 2 AFC Championship game appearances, mysteriously just fell off the radar because it was because he couldn't take care of the football.
At least he was better than Team Tebow.
Oh, brother. Let's just hope that the Jets know exactly what they're going to do with this 3rd overall pick now. At this rate,
who should they get?
Who should they get?
Yes.
At this rate, the Jets, they made this move for a reason. I would like to think that it's to get a quarterback. And
so let's say
if I'm
Cleveland goes for the wide receiver, the Giants go for the quarterback. Who is the third choice? Who pick the quarterback?
Well, if the Browns get Saquon Barkley and the Giants wind up getting someone like, let's say, Josh Rosen, maybe the Jets go after Sam Darnold. Although the last time they picked a USC quarterback, it was Sanchez, and look how that turned out. Josh Allen from Wyoming, maybe?
Now, it all depends what the first 2 pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's go by the logic that the Browns pick quarterback and the Giants pick the wide receiver or linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Who is their third guy? The Jets will still pick quarterback, or
I think they would still. I think they would probably still pick a quarterback. Yeah,
will it be the same player you just mentioned?
Possibly.
Who else would be under their radar?
In all likelihood, maybe they could go after a defensive lineman who could really change a game with his pass rushing ability, and it could be any number of names that are on the draft board.
Now, the Jets get a lot of players too because they have a lot of salary cap. They have $90 million under the salary cap.
Right.
So, do you think they're utilizing it properly?
Well, so far they have. I mean, they've gotten rid of some dead weight. And the couple of guys that they did bring in, they're hoping will make a big impact. I want to see what happens with Terrell Pryor, though. If they can sign Terrell Pryor, that would be quite a catch for them, for lack of a better word, because Terrell Pryor has really made a name for himself as a converted receiver.
Who's the dead weight that you're talking about?
What's that?
Who's the dead weight you were talking about for the Jets?
Well, let's see. They already got rid of Muhammad Wilkerson, who, by the way, signed with the Vikings. And they also had 2 guys retire on them. Matt Forte retired, and also David Harris retired. Forte, unfortunately, was just not getting the ball as much as he used to. I think the injuries that he had were really costing him. And now I think it's time for the Jets to really look elsewhere to try and pound the ball to in the event that they want to take some pressure off of the quarterback position. They weren't able to do that when they signed in a young guy recently, trying to figure out exactly who the name of that running back is, because the Jets did get. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Whereas the Jets wound up re-signing Josh McCown, they also decided to bring in Teddy Bridgewater, which I think is a very good idea.
So if the Jets sign who they're supposed to sign, and the Giants sign who they're supposed to sign, who's got a better shot?
Who will be the better team this year, or who has the better shot at making the playoffs?
Who'd be the better team between both of them?
Right now, the Giants are showing that they're really making a lot. The Giants are making so many moves right now that they're head and shoulders the better team over the Jets.
Now, the Jets trying to get younger too, or are they trying to make the playoffs?
They want to get younger as well, but at the same time, they want to be able to build with youth, yet try and make a rush for the playoffs. I mean, after 7 consecutive seasons of no playoffs, the Jets have to try and make a run at a playoff spot now.
So the Jets have their chances of making the playoffs. Is it better than the Giants?
Right now, the Giants' chances are better than the Jets because of all the moves that they've made.
On paper.
Mm-hmm. Although they did lose a really valuable receiving threat, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, their tight end, wound up signing with Jacksonville. So it's looking more and more like the Jets are going to have to look elsewhere to get a really big play receiver. And now I'm hearing that maybe the Jets want to make Robbie Anderson the guy.
What about the teams around the league, like the Vikings, Chicago?
The Vikings got a hell of a lot better at quarterback when they got Kirk Cousins. I think Denver got better when they wound up getting Case Keenum to be their quarterback. I think it was a very cost-effective move for them. And also considering the year that he had with the Vikes, it made sense for the Broncos. They needed a quarterback in the absolute worst way.
Now, you said with Kirk Cousins, when the Jets were going after him, you didn't like him.
I didn't like him because, quite frankly, he has his moments where he can be really, really turnover prone. He commits a lot of turnovers at the wrong time. At the same time, he does have big play ability. He can throw the ball deep, and he is able to make a few plays with his feet. But now that he's going to be playing in Minnesota, where he doesn't have to worry about the weather, I think the fact that the indoor conditions are going to be playing into his favor, they're going to help him quite a bit.
And their offensive line and defensive line are a hell of a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Now, if the Vikings can get Dalvin Cook back 100% healthy from injury, I would think that the Vikings can be a Super Bowl contender again.
Do you expect the Cleveland Browns to be in last place again?
Yeah, I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. They've made a couple of moves here and there. I mean, they wound up getting Tyrod Taylor to be their quarterback, which really isn't saying much considering Tyrod Taylor doesn't necessarily have the strongest arm. But he does have the athletic ability that allows him to make plays with his feet. So at least the Browns do have somebody that they can rely on to be their quarterback for this coming season, and you pair him with Duke Johnson out of the backfield, they might be able to make some noise a little bit. Let's put it this way. They're not going to be winless this year.
What about Americans' team, the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, brother. That's another that team right now, I don't even know what I could begin to tell you regarding them. There's a lot of rumors in what's that?
Let's start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. Well, let's see. Yeah. Des Bryant continues to act like a knucklehead. The Cowboys don't know whether they want to release him or not. There's also Ezekiel Elliott, another knucklehead who got himself suspended for barely half of last season. They don't know what to make of their defense. They need guys on the defensive line in the worst way. They don't have one single pass rusher that can try and make an impact for them. And I think their secondary needs work too.
And the Redskins?
Washington Redskins have a lot of work to do. Now that they're without a quarterback, dare I say that maybe they draft a quarterback coming up? Because, quite frankly, I don't know what the Redskins can do to try and make up for losing Cousins.
Well, isn't their backup quarterback supposed to be just as good as him?
Supposedly, yeah. Well,
so there shouldn't be a problem.
Well, I saw that they brought in I saw that the Redskins brought in the ex-Cowboy Orlando Scandrick to be in the secondary for them.
And
Miami Dolphins. That's another team that, quite frankly, needs to solve their quarterback problem, because the guy that they have, Ryan Tannehill, has been either hurt or completely ineffective. And quite frankly, I just don't know where they can go with this guy. And also, Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler was garbage for them last year. And they need a running back in the worst way. When they traded Jay Ajayi, that really left them naked in the backfield. Oh, as far as the Redskins are concerned, I almost forgot. They wound up making the Alex Smith trade with the Chiefs, and they wound up giving him a contract extension. So it looks like the Redskins are set at quarterback. So now maybe the Redskins might be able to, if they can get another running back, maybe the Redskins might be able to make a push.
So the way that division pans out, you see who at first place?
In the NFC East, you mean?
Yes.
In the NFC East, the Eagles are head and shoulders above every other team in the NFC East. And they also made the trade to get Michael Bennett from the Seahawks. And he's already starting to leave his stamp on the division. He's called out Eli Manning. He's called out Alex Smith, basically saying that he's coming after both of them. So the Redskins, they're already better on the defensive line when you consider that they brought in Bennett. As far as who the second best team in the division right now, the Cowboys are a close second.
Even with all their mess-ups?
Even with all of their mess-ups, because, quite frankly, you can't teach talent. Des Bryant is a great breakaway receiver who can extend the defense. There's also Ezekiel Elliott who can keep defenses honest and break away for a lot of yardage. And there's also Dak Prescott, probably the best young quarterback out there right now, a guy who has so much more room to grow. The backfield is just so talented that none of the other teams even come close. I think the Giants and the Redskins are much older at quarterback right now. Right? And as far as the Cowboys are concerned, Dak Prescott's the future.
So you're saying the Eagles are in first, the Cowboys are in second. Who's in third and fourth?
I think the Redskins take over third place because of the quarterback situation. Even with all of the improvements that the Giants made, there's no guarantee that there's going to be a playoff push. I mean, anything can happen.
So you see the Giants in fourth place.
Yeah.
Who do you see in fifth?
In the conference, though?
In that, yes.
In fifth place in the conference, well, right now my picks would be Philly, followed by I think Green Bay is going to make a comeback because Aaron Rodgers is healthy, and also they brought in his backup, which is DeShone Kizer. So I think Green Bay is going to make a push. Probably.
But they're not in the Dallas division team. They're not in that division.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, Hector, there are only 4 teams per division in the NFL.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that Eagles are in first.
It's the Eagles, Cowboys, Redskins, and Giants in the NFC East.
Okay, now, in the other division where the Jets are?
The AFC East, New England is still the team to beat. They always have been and always will be.
Who's second?
Second right now, if I had to make a choice,
yes.
It's hard to pick, but I would have to say Miami because at least the Dolphins have a slightly more talented quarterback than either the Bills and the Jets do. So I would say Miami would come in second. Buffalo would be third because they're sorely lacking at quarterback right now, and the Jets would still bring up the rear.
They would be in fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the other division,
the AFC,
49ers division.
Yeah, the 49ers division, that would be the NFC West.
Right.
Still say the Rams are better. I think they're the future at quarterback and at running back with Jared Goff and also Todd Gurley. And after that, I still think Seattle is better. Arizona is struggling with a quarterback right now. They brought in Sam Bradford, but quite frankly, Sam Bradford's not the answer. He cannot win games, and he's extremely inconsistent. Not only that, he can't stay healthy either. So right now, I would say the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers are going to be a hell of a lot better this year. With Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback, he's still undefeated, keep in mind, as a starting quarterback in this game, even though he's had 7 starts to his name. And then you would bring up Arizona.
And in the Pittsburgh division?
That's the AFC North. Pittsburgh's still head and shoulders better than everybody else. I think Baltimore is having a lot of problems. I think they might be taking a nosedive. They're going to have to do something really, really serious if they want to get back in the game. So it's Pittsburgh. I think Cincinnati will be slightly better, and then Baltimore, and then Cleveland will bring up the rear again.
And who am I missing? Panthers division.
Yeah, you're talking about the NFC South.
Right.
I still think Atlanta will make a push at a playoff spot because they're just so loaded in the backfield with Matt Ryan and Devontae Freeman, and they're loaded at receiver too. Plus, I think their defense is solid enough where they can try and make another run. I still say Atlanta is the team to beat in the South. Then there's New Orleans, which has Drew Brees, a guy who does not seem to age at all. He's had 17 years, and he keeps throwing for 5,000 yards a year. And then after that, I like Carolina, and Tampa, I think, is going to be in a lot of trouble.
Are we missing any more divisions?
There's let's see, we cover, well, there's the NFC North. I mentioned Green Bay before. I think Green Bay is going to challenge Minnesota for the North Division. In fact, I think you might see them tie for the division at the end of the year. It may be down to a tiebreaker as far as who actually wins it. I still say that Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins, so I'll take Aaron Rodgers any day of the week. After that, Detroit is okay at best. Don't like their defense at all. Chicago, they have their future at quarterback with Mitch Trubisky, but other than Jordan Howard at running back, he has no one to work with, and their defense is horrendous. Now, as far as the AFC South, Tennessee made a lot of strides last year when they wound up making the playoffs. And then there was Jacksonville. But what is Jacksonville going to do for an encore? Blake Bortles did a better job taking care of the football last year. And also, he's got Leonard Fournette to hand the ball off to. So let's see what Blake Bortles can do in his walk year of his contract. So other than that, I actually think Tennessee has made the move to try and challenge for that South Division. So I think it's going to be Tennessee first, then Jacksonville. With Indianapolis, it's going to be up to Andrew Luck. If he can be 100% healthy, maybe they can challenge for a division title. Other than that, there's also the matter of the Houston Texans, who are going to have, hopefully, a healthy Deshaun Watson to play at quarterback. I still would like to see them get an every down running back to take the pressure off him. Then there's the matter of J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. Both of those guys have to be healthy in order for the Texans to do anything. So if I had to pick, that division right there is going to be so competitive that no one really knows who can make their way out of it for sure. But if I had to do a guesstimate, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston, in that order.
Mm-hmm. On paper.
Yeah, on paper. And then there's the Western Division, which Kansas City won last year. I think this might be this is a transition year now for the Chiefs, because now that Alex Smith has been traded, that means they're going to have Patrick Mahomes be the everyday quarterback. And fortunately, he's going to have Kareem Hunt to hand the ball off to. So this is a year in transition for the Chiefs. As for the Raiders, they were a complete disappointment last year, and Derek Carr went back to having some bad habits. Other than that, San Diego might be a team to challenge for the division. Phillip Rivers seems to have gotten better with each passing year. And then there's the matter of the Broncos. Right now, the Chiefs and the Broncos are the two teams that are really transitioning new quarterbacks into their offense. So when you think about it, could this be the year that maybe the Raiders get back the AFC West Division? Who knows? So right now, I would see it in a really close call. The Raiders, the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos in that order.
What about the Bears?
Chicago's going to be horrible. They have no defense whatsoever. They don't have a number one receiver. And they're still working in a very young quarterback, running back duo that's still trying to find themselves.
They fit in last place.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the rest of the team?
What's that?
Who would be in first place in that division again?
In the AFC North, I like Green Bay. I mean, the NFC North.
NFC North. Right.
In the NFC North, it's Green Bay's division to win again, because now that Aaron Rodgers is healthy, he's going to have some really nice newcomers to work with.
Who's in second and who's in third?
I still like Minnesota in a very, very close race, then Detroit, then Chicago in the NFC North.
Oh, wow. So we've covered every team.
Mm-hmm.
That on paper, they look fantastic. And they've all, in their own way, they've improved and not improved in their own way. And do you think now, if it wasn't because of Kaepernick with the knee, even though that shouldn't matter, But do you think that if he went to the Jets, they would improve in quarterback?
I think it can give them some credibility, but because, well, he'll give them credibility because he could still make enough plays with his feet to keep drives going. His arm is strong, but he is so erratic throwing the ball. I mean, he could complete a 70-yard bomb one moment and then come right around and commit a really careless turnover the next moment. But he's talented enough that he will make an impact on somebody.
Have you heard anything in collusion? Is it collusion the problem that he had with that the NFL would not let him in?
Unfortunately, there hasn't been any legalese going on between the two sides yet. And yes, there is collusion going on between the two sides. All because Kaepernick made a simple political statement and stood up, or in his case, took a knee for what he believed in. He's getting basically ostracized by the league right now, unfairly.
And would you believe that WFAN, ESPN, they still talk about this, even in serious sports? They actually talk about the knee still. Not as much as before, but I know people at CTV may not like that, but it's still sports relevant.
Yeah, it is sports relevant.
And, did you hear that the latest inductee for the WWE Hall of Fame is Mark Henry?
Yes, I did, and I couldn't be happier for the guy. Quite frankly, he was... What's that?
He never retired.
He never retired, but he never said that he was going to wrestle again either. But either way, it's a really deserving feat for that guy because he has done so much for the company, a lot more than wrestling fans want to give him credit for. I mean, he was WWE champion, and he also helped to revolutionize the big man's game, especially when it came to athleticism. He was a very athletic guy for almost 400 pounds. And I think we might have lost Hector for a bit.
He was an Olympian.
Oh, there you go. Yes, he was in the Olympics, and he also was he literally was at one time the world's strongest man.
Exactly, just like Kempatera. So for those people that don't like to hear about wrestling, look at their wrestling backgrounds before you talk about not wanting to hear about supposedly fake wrestling. Look at their backgrounds. You had Kempatera, one of the world's strongest men. Ted Arstini, one of the world's strongest men. Mark Henry, one of the world's strongest men. You had MMA fighters, Ken Shamrock, Steve Blackman.
Yep.
Okay, and not Steve Blackman. Well, yes, the other guy, I forgot his name though. He was an MMA too. I mean, you have all these people that have come from professional backgrounds.
Yeah.
That go to the WWE and they think, it's just fake wrestling. You know what? That's not the way to look at it. It's the athleticism that they bring. Now, so far, you have Hillbilly Jim,
who I'm also happy for.
Ivory, who came from Glow Wrestling.
That's right, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Those were some really humble beginnings for her. I mean,
she stood out though.
She did stand out because she was a really, really good competitor in that circuit. And, because of Glow's heyday, they wound up turning it into a Netflix series.
Yeah, Awesome Kong is on there.
That's right. Speaking of WWE, we know that WrestleMania is going to be right around the corner. If I'm not mistaken, it's taking place in New Orleans.
April 9th.
Yep. Well, guess where next year's WrestleMania is going to be?
The Meadowlands.
Yes, sir! It's going to be at MetLife Stadium in 2019. Hopefully the weather will cooperate by the time WrestleMania makes its way to the Meadowlands next year. But it's great to have the WrestleMania back in the tri-state area.
So let's see who they have in the Hall of Fame. So it's Mark Henry, Billy Jim, Ivory. There was one more person. I forgot off the top of my head. But they've all been great inductees so far. And Kid Rock.
That's right. He was inducted into the entertainers category.
Exactly. And again, Hillbilly Jim wants Hulk Hogan to be his presenter.
Yeah.
And did you hear about the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal? They took out the Fabulous Moolah name.
Really? Why?
Because although Moolah revolutionized the ladies wrestling at that time period,
yeah,
they also said that she was a pimp.
What?
Yes.
Brother.
She pimped out women and supposedly like John Cena. She made women be held back so she would win the title.
That's not. I don't believe that for a second.
No, it's documented. And
she really was a pimp?
If you read the article that I read that I'll send you to,
okay,
it'll say in the article, if I remember correctly, that she, and from what Ro told me, she used to charge for them being in her apartment, going to her wrestling school, and a couple of things she used to charge for that she shouldn't have charged for.
Oh, wow.
Then she used to pimp women out. And that's why, if you see it, now it's the Women's Battle Royal. It's no more the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal.
Oh.
Because a lot of female wrestlers started complaining.
Really?
So, yeah, there is going to be a problem. So it's going to be the Women's Battle Royal this year. And there's a new wrestling organization that Rey Mysterio is going to be in. He's co-owner with Conan and some of the other players.
I see.
Johnny Mundo, and I forgot the name of it, but I'll pick it up next time. Mm-hmm. But NXT is probably the best show on earth right now besides ROH and New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Better than WWE is given out at any time.
Right.
You don't know if Brock Lesnar's coming back or will they sign him again.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to turn him into a heel. You should just leave him the way he is and be done with it. You love him or hate him, but that's it. But all in all, do you think that The Undertaker will come out of retirement for one more match?
Wouldn't surprise me if he did.
He should just stay where he's at if he's that banged up and have John Cena fight with Ronda Rousey instead of, or Shane McMahon against Sami Zayn and Owens.
Now, what is this storyline that I hear that Ronda Rousey is Kurt Angle's daughter?
No, it was Jordan. I didn't know. It was some guy named Jordan. That he had a stepson or a bastard son, as they like to say.
Oh,
and
okay.
Ronda Rousey has nothing. She's just coming in from MMA.
Mm-hmm.
But there is something. They're trying to fight MMA versus wrestling. Eventually, they're going to compare the 4 women of Horseman Wrestling, which is Charlotte, Becky Lynch, the Boss Sasha Banks, and the Hugger, I forgot her name.
You mean Bailey?
Bailey. versus the Ronda Rousey and the 3 other women that are in MMA that are going to come up eventually. So eventually you're going to see them in WrestleMania for a battle. But I wanted to also ask this. Now, how is baseball doing right now? Is Jacob deGrom the best 1-2 punch for the Mets?
Well, so far, spring training is close to winding up right now. Speaking of which, the Yankees are playing right now against Tampa, and they've completed 4 innings, and the Yankees lead the Rays 1-0. The Mets, if I'm not mistaken, lost earlier today, 2-0 to the Astros. Let me ask you something. The Mets are just 7-16 in the spring, but quite frankly, I would not put too much stock in it. I'm already looking forward to opening day. The Mets do have a little bit of an issue, though. One of the starting pitchers that they signed, Jason Vargas, has a broken bone in his hand, so he's going to undergo surgery to have the bone removed. And they're hoping that with enough rehab, he can return in time for the start of the season.
In each division, who do you see in first place and who do you see in last place?
Who do I see in first place? Well, let's go to
each division.
Well, you mentioned the Mets first. Let's go to the Mets first. I would say Washington is going to win the Eastern Division once again. They're head and shoulders better than every other team that's in that Eastern Division. So I think the Nationals would take first. Dare I say this, but maybe the Mets do take second place after all. Does it guarantee them a wild card spot? Not necessarily, but I think they made enough moves that would make them a real serious player in the National League this year. After that, I think Atlanta's going to be third. Philadelphia, which has some good young players, I think Philadelphia will remain in fourth because I just don't think they have enough hitting to try and get over the hump. Pitching-wise, they're going to be much better because now that they have Jake Arrieta, they have an ace who they can go to. Florida continues to rebuild. They're the obvious choice for fifth place and last place. As far as who I like in the Central Division, still, the Cubs lost a couple of guys, so dare I say maybe they drop down to second or third place now. St. Louis, the Cardinals are always challenging in that division. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if they wound up winning the Central this time. But as far as who takes the division overall? Well, at least the Cubs were able to add Yu Darvish to be one of the guys in their starting staff. So you add him in there with John Lester and all the other guys. Maybe, just maybe, they might be able to at least keep afloat over 500 during the year. But other than that, the Cubs don't really have that number 3, 4, or 5 guy that I would look to that's going to try and save their season. So as of right now, I still say St. Louis wins the Central Division. One team that's going to be a lot better is Milwaukee. Now that they have Christian Yelich in their batting order, you put him in there with the guy that they had last year, Eric Timms, who just sparkled as the first baseman, a slugging first baseman. And also with their pitching staff, I think Milwaukee is going to scare some people in that Central Division. So I say St. Louis takes first, Milwaukee takes second. The Chicago Cubs are my pick for third. I think they're going to drop down a little bit. And then after that, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are going to fight for the rear. As far as what happens out west, the Dodgers really grew by leaps and bounds last year. But I'll tell you what, San Francisco made a lot of improvements. They got Andrew McCutcheon to be their center fielder. They also got Evan Longoria to be their third baseman. You add those two to the rest of their batting order, which has Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford and all the other guys, and that pitching staff with a now healthy Madison Bumgarner. Don't be surprised if the Giants challenge for the Western Division title. So as of right now, I still say I think the Dodgers would edge the Giants out to win the West. I think the Giants take second. Arizona and Colorado are going to battle for third place. Those two teams were the wild cards last year. But I still think Arizona's slightly better. So I'm going to pick Arizona to be third. Colorado's going to finish fourth. San Diego seems to be rebuilding every single year. They're going to be fifth place. As far as the American League, the Eastern Division, this is the Yankees and the Red Sox division to really battle it out for. Dare I say the Yankees win this one, though? Well, Boston made some improvements, too. I mean, you can't really rule them out either. I mean, when you think about it, having Craig Kimbrell as their closer, Stephen Wright and Brandon Workman and Hector Velasquez, they pretty much have...
Does it boil down to pitching or does it boil down to hitting?
It's pitching. And right now, you look at who the Red Sox have in their staff. David Price, Rick Porcello, Stephen Wright, who's a youngster, Joe Kelly, who's a proven veteran. Right now, also Chris Sale. You can't forget about Chris Sale, who was dynamic last year. Sale, Price, and Porcello are just a deadly trio to try and lead the Red Sox to that division title.
First, Yankees are in second.
I would think the Red Sox would take the division title, and the Yankees would be a very, very close second place. After that, take your choice. I think Toronto's going to... I think Baltimore does take third. I think they have the batting order to be really, really dangerous. Toronto's a disappointment. They have very little hitting. Their pitching staff is going to probably be the ones to try and save the day for them. And then there's Tampa, which has a lot of young players. They're going to be doing a lot of rebuilding. Central Division.
Yeah.
Central
you don't
Division.
Have that much time left.
Yep. Central Division. Detroit got a lot better. I think they're going to challenge Cleveland, but in all, Cleveland's going to win that division. I still like Detroit in second. Minnesota, I think, is going to take a step backwards. Then you have the Chicago White Sox and then Kansas City. Out west, the talk is about the Angels. The Angels made a lot of improvements, so I think the Angels win the West this time. Then you have the Rangers. Then you have the Seattle Mariners. And then, well... You can't forget about Houston. I almost forgot about Houston, and I can't believe that I did that. Houston wound up adding Garrett Cole to their pitching staff. How can you not make them the division champions? Houston's going to be first. The Angels are going to be second. I think Texas will be third, Seattle fourth, and Oakland fifth.
Those are some damn good choices.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some damn good choices.
Well,
and, you know, I would think the Yankees would have the edge because they went to the playoffs, but you're right, because of the pitching staff that they added and the hitting as well.
Mm-hmm. The Yankees have the better batting order, but the Red Sox have the better pitching staff, especially
Boston's
1, 2, 3.
Is no slouch, though.
This is true.
Hitting is no slouch. They actually added another guy.
Mm-hmm. They did. Well, unfortunately, Kenny just played the music, so that means we're going to be out of here. Hector, thank you once again.
You're welcome, and we're going to talk about March Madness next Monday, and the Knicks and Nets, and hockey, and Lord knows whatever else.
Yep. Thanks to everyone watching at home. For everyone here, I'm Jaime.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone.
Night, night.